evening, everyone. Welcome to LPA. This is our general meeting night, and so glad you're all here. Hopefully more people are coming, running a little late or whatever. We do have a few people on Zoom as well. Let's make sure that our phones are off so that we don't interrupt during the meeting time, or at least on quiet. And our first order of business tonight is it is election night for our board of directors, which is why I was trying to wait. Maybe I'll do some announcements first and then do that. I can do this. I can do things backwards. So as far as workshops, next week, our workshop is going to be a movement portrait workshop. And I have 3 dancers coming in, and we're going to have 3 different backdrops set up with constant lighting. And if you want to bring your flash, your speed light, or a strobe even, bring those and your trigger to use it, and you're more than welcome to do that. And we'll have about an hour and a half to take pictures of close-ups or movement. They can be jumping, doing dance poses or whatever you want them to do. And that's next week, so bring your cameras. And then on Saturday, we're having a field trip down to San Juan here. I know it's Memorial Day weekend, but when I planned it, I didn't realize that it was Memorial Day weekend. So I'm hoping it won't be too bad as far as busyness there, but sometimes that makes it more interesting. We're meeting at the Arch of the Pier at 4 o'clock, and sign up on the website if you want to go so that we know how many people to look for there. And then on Thursday, the 30th, I think, is our editing discussion group. And that will be meeting at Panera and Lancaster at 6 o'clock. If you have any editing questions or conundrums, or if you want to bring a picture to be edited, do that, and we'll just have fun and eat some dinner. And then on June 2nd at 7:30 is the breakfast discussion group, and that meets at Grill Cafe. It's here. Next month is our end of year competition, and then our workshop is going to be macro photography, also a hands-on workshop. So 2 in a row. And that will go well into our next competition in July, which will be macro close-up. So it will all function well together. If you are interested in becoming a member or renewing your membership, it's that time of year when we renew our memberships. Talk with Don Sullivan, and he will take your money, etc. The S4C is having our virtual awards banquet on June 6th or June 8th at 2 o'clock. Yes. So if you were a part of S4C this past year, you should have gotten an email, and please register for that so that you can get the Zoom link. At PSA 2024 annual exhibition is now open. There are 4 digital exhibitions by print and 1 3D, which I don't even know how you do 3D. You have to have a 3D camera because we all have those, right? And then the PSA festival is being held from September 18th to 21st in Tucson. So check the PSA website for information about that if you're interested in going and you belong to PSA. The fair is coming up in September 25th, 29th, and we will be having a mounting workshop in July. So be ready for that. Think about what you want to enter, get those points ready on that. And we will be letting you know soon the schedule for our volunteer days over at the fair as far as setup and decoration, all of that, taken day, hanging pictures and all of that. Okay, I guess that's who's gonna be here for elections. So, this year, the board members are staying the same. I'm gonna be president. Andrew, who's on Zoom, is gonna be vice president. Secretary is Vicki Jordan, who is on a cruise somewhere in Europe. And, Treasurer Don Sullivan, voting member John Gelderman, and the other voting member, Tom Dorman, who is with his fire department. So they're having fun over there, while we are taking care of business here. Because, it's the same as last year, and because there's only one candidate per post, we can do it by a vote of acclamation, which is basically a show of hands. So, all those in favor of approving the board, and, do we have a quorum? I think so.
I think
I mean, I think so. Will we ever have a forum now that there's Zoom and everything? I don't know. Anyways, people online, you can raise your hands also. So those who are in favor of accepting the board as presented, please raise your hands. Okay. All opposed? Very good. Okay, so the board passed. So we will continue in our duties until such time as somebody else wants to step up. Okay. So the Wilkins said they were going to be here tonight. This is going to be, they are moving to North Carolina, I believe. And to be closer to their grandkids and all, you know how it is. So hopefully they will show up at some point and bring cake and stuff. So we'll eat some cake afterwards. I guess we'll be here or not, because otherwise we won't do it. We were just talking about you. Were your ears burning? Yeah. Did you bring in and out for salt? No. Yes. We were just talking about the fact that even if this is your last night here, is that correct? That is. Okay. We did bring a little cake, in not celebration, in, as a farewell to you guys. Both Dave and Christine have been very, active in LPA, S4C, throughout the whole time that they've been here, which has been, I didn't look it up. When did you guys join?
2007.
2007. So it's been 15-ish years or so. And so Dave has been functioning as past president because that's what it is. For our board, and they are going to continue to be members after they move. That's what they told me, at least that's the plan. So we'll continue to see their pictures in our competition, which will be exciting. Yes.
We're moving at Easy Frosted, and anyone who would want to send. What do you film? Oh, the shooting film. I'm happy to give it away.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Do you guys want to say anything? No? Okay. Okay, so we're glad you're here tonight, and we're sad that you're leaving. Okay, I guess that is it. We are ready now to introduce our judge for tonight. Tonight we are having a train competition, and as you know, we don't normally do such specific themes for our competitions, but appropriately enough, this was what Dave Wilkins wanted. He asked for trains last year. So tonight our judge is George Hutch Hutchison. And let me get my glasses. His love for photography was inspired at a very early age by the magic of his father's camera and darkroom. The advent of more advanced film cameras in the 1980s and digital photography in the 1990s further stimulated and broadened his interest. He primarily shoots for his own pleasure with work ranging across a broad spectrum of genres. He particularly enjoys landscape, action sports, and abstract photography. Hutch is an active member of the Channel Islands Professional Photographers Thousand Oaks Photo Group, and he has served as on the board of directors for the Southern California Council of Camera Clubs. Over the years, he has received numerous awards and recognition for his photography, most recently earning a top 10 photographer award at both the 2022 and 2023 Professional Photographers of California annual competitions, and the Permajet USA 2022 award for Best Black and White Print. And if you visit the website digitaldaydreaming.com for more information. Welcome, Hutch. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I think I better replace my picture. I'm turning into a silver fox versus the picture there.
There you go. That's right. So tonight our theme is train, and entries may include trains and train-related subject matter. It's a pictorial competition, so any amount of editing is allowed. But remember, no AI-generated images or parts of your images are allowed. So, without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Paul Kraft, who's going to come up and run the competition.
Hutch, did you want to say some words first or just go right into it?
Oh, just a couple of quick words. Before I get started here, I've got to admire all of you for the job you did in what was I think probably a little more difficult competition or subject. Trains are just not readily available to all of us. And so I think a lot of you had to kind of reach to find a train, and I admire you for doing that and going out of your way to participate in the competition. The only suggestion I would have after previewing all of the images, one of the things I love to do, and I didn't see very much of in this competition, but I would urge you to go out and try. I spend a lot of time, I like to go back to Travel Town down in Griffith Park, and just take the old steam engines and dissect them into the parts. There's a lot of abstracts and the wheels and the pumps and the pulleys and all of the things on those old trains can be a lot of fun to shoot. So I was kind of looking for a little more of that. And again, I think you didn't see much of it, but you might have fun thinking about that in the future. So with that, let's get started and have fun going through some really wonderful images.
Okay, the first group is novice, and there's 13. And like last time, I'll do a quick run through and then I'll come back to the first one.
Look it up.
Okay, here's our first one.
Okay. This one just, the impact of this image really struck me. And I've got to give kudos to the maker for thinking outside the box in terms of the editing on this. It's not something that customarily I would approach or do, but I think it's effective in this case. The tonality on the engine itself and the cars and kind of coming in that corner and sweeping towards you is really wonderful. And by creating this kind of high key surroundings, I think you really emphasized, took away a lot of the busy stuff that probably was in the image. So congratulations for, again, thinking outside of the box. And I think it's a really nice image. It obviously fits the theme very, very well in two ways. One, the train and the ancillary elements around the train, the little sign to the side, the light, what have you. So you've incorporated a lot of the theme of the challenge in one image, and I think that's pretty good. Only suggestion I would have, perhaps, to make it a little bit better, might have been, I know, your train may have been speeding towards you, but I think to have a little bit of space between that pole and the train, rather than kind of chopping off the end of the train, might have been a little bit better image. I'm talking about the, oops,
Oh, sorry about that.
yeah.
That was me.
These two areas right here are what we call occluded, or they're brought together. And so what I would have preferred to see maybe would be a little space between the train and this pole, and presumably if the train wasn't moving too fast, that might have been a possibility for the maker to do. So next image. I kind of had to take a second look at this. It's interesting in the sense of light, and I think the maker has done a really good job of pulling the tonality out of it, in the sense of your exposure. There's still a lot of detail in the very light area of the image, and also in the shadows. So kudos to the maker for pulling that off and pulling that out. It could have very easily been the train could have very easily been lost in the shadows. I really like the element of bringing this presumed local carrier train, what have you, into context with the city. So that really made sense to me. And again, notice how you had a little space over here between the signal here and the train, and I really like this diagonal sweeping in. So nice job, and nice light, and certainly fits the theme very, very well. Next image. The image certainly fits the theme, but the first thing that struck me, you've got a powerful leading line right down the center of the image. And one of my favorite judges over the years kind of coined the comment, if you're going to have a strong leading line, make sure and have a girl in a red bikini at the end. You need something for it to land on. And in this case, you've got a really nice leading line. You've got symmetry in the image, which is always nice. So the tracks are in the middle, and I don't really object to that, because there is so many elements of the symmetry between the poles on the side and what have you. But really, my eye has been taken straight down the tracks to that bright spot right there at the end, and I don't know what that is. So next time, bring a girl out with a red bikini on and put her at the end. I'm saying that a little bit tongue in cheek, obviously, but maybe having something down there that other than just going to that white spot that's unidentifiable might work better. The other thing to think about on an image like this is whether you need to include quite so much of it. This area up here on the top is just kind of a big void of negative space. And in this image, just taking and pulling it down into something like this, I think probably makes it more powerful in terms of the symmetry and the nature of the train tracks leading you in. Next image. Gosh, I really enjoyed this image. I think I may be mistaken, but I think this engine is actually on display someplace, so it's probably taken quite some time ago, but that's okay. I think we all pull out of our archives occasionally. I really like the maker's thought process in terms of turning this into a sepia or old-fashioned looking image that I think portrays the time that this image or that this train was probably performing. Um, I I think it probably is a little bit underexposed. I'd like to see a little bit more detail down here in the guts of the machine, and you've kind of got a little bit of a pull. Your eye tends to go, this is so bright relative to the rest of the image that it really pulls your eye. And then, of course, this little box here is not exactly the most appropriate or the most pleasant part of the image. So I'm not sure what you do about that particularly, other than maybe toning this down and bringing up the shadows a little bit more so I can see a little bit more detail down here. But good thought process and nice angle on the train. So good job. Next image. Yeah, I enjoyed looking at this image. I think good impact and nicely done. I suspect that the maker was trying to include both the sun up here and the primary emphasis of the train down here. And I think that's a good thought. But the other side of the coin is that what tends to happen, to me at least, is that my eye tends to bounce back and forth between this hot spot at the top and the train at the bottom. When you have two subjects or two objects that are such a strong pull for the eye, and you have that kind of a gap, then the eye tends to ping pong between the two of them. So in a way, I think you've really created almost two images in a way. One that could have stood on its own. I think, maybe a crop something like this. You've got nice environment down here that tells a story of where that streetcar is, and focuses your eye in on the streetcar. And of course, you got that bright spot there that pulls you there. So again, bright spot there, bright spot down there. It's a long distance between the two of them for the eye to take in. It's a one. So give that some thought in the future, but enjoyed the image, and I like the fact that the trolley is set in an area that gives it some context. Next image. Words are really powerful. Words, numbers, and people are really powerful to the eye. So immediately my eye went to Virginia and Truckee, and then kind of over to the 25, centered right in on them. So I thought that was pretty good. The two things that I think might have made this image more compelling. You've got a lot of bright sky up here and a lot of bright sky here in this box. And I'm not sure that either one of these is really all that attractive an element to the image itself. The meat of your image really is over in this area here, but my eye is being pulled over to this white stuff here, what have you. The other thing that you might think about the next time, and I know it's hard, but the two people in the image, they're characters and they're doing their job, but they've got their backs turned to you, and I would really like to see their face, and that maybe hauling out to them and just asking them to turn for a moment. Might have given you something a little bit stronger there. Also losing a little bit of detail, and I understand that in the face and in the jeans and what have you. It's tough when you have such dark areas to deal with in terms of exposure. and such bright areas. Tough keeping all that detail in, but it's something to think about in the future. Next image. Wowzer. Lots of impact. And this is one, those of us that are judges, like recently a discussion between several of us that judge frequently over the subjectivity versus the objectivity of judging. And I'm one that maintains that every judge comes with some subjectivity. Yes, you have certain quote unquote rules or principles that you look for when you're judging, but then I'm going to be influenced pretty strongly one way versus maybe somebody that's had completely different life experiences. In this case, the element that's a little bit subjective to me, but may be done intentionally on the part of the maker and may be appealing to others, is I just feel like the train is the saturation is just overdone. And I think you have to be careful doing that. Obviously, the train had some rather interesting colors. I'm presuming they're the original colors and that it wasn't modified in Photoshop, but it had some really powerful colors to begin with. So I'm not sure that if it was my image, I would feel the need to pump this up quite to the degree that it is. And I suspect that as you're in the novice category, move up to higher levels, which I'm sure you will, because basically the composition, everything else is well done. I'm sure you'll move up. Be careful that pushing that quite as much so that it might have a little bit broader appeal and not impact the judge powerfully one direction or the other. So next image. I'm a little bit puzzled by this. I am presuming that the maker kind of tried to turn day into night. And that's a presumption because the image is rather underexposed, and that's called going for it. And I understand that it's a creative thing to try to do, but given all the highlights on the top of the train and what have you, you've got some pretty strong inconsistencies in terms of the light, unless you're trying to make me believe that that's moonlight that's causing that. I think more conventionally exposed, so to speak, and that's a presumption on my part, by the way, that maybe that is the natural light. I don't know, but if it is, I'd still try to adjust it much more into a daylight situation. And I get the reason in particular that I'm saying that with this image is because it essentially is a pretty strong image in terms of composition. I love that curve leading you in. The engine itself is fairly well positioned, and it's sweeping around that curve, and I can almost feel the movement of the train. So that's really good. Whether or not, again, you needed to play with trying to turn day into night, or maybe it was. If that's the case, then shame on me. But I think well seen and well positioned and nice composition. Next image. Have a little sip of water here. It is interesting. I'm kind of assuming that this caboose, I believe it is probably on display someplace. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's on an active track, but I'm kind of on the presumption that it's on display, and it's an interesting environmental photo. Because Burlington Northern, it's kind of putting it in context of its surroundings, which is really good. You've got a good job in trying to bring out the exposure, but the sky up here is just so bright. And the mountains here have been brought up, I think, a little beyond what they need to be. And this may have been a pretty good candidate for a graduated filter in Lightroom, where you might have just, brought it down this way and brought the tones and the details out in the mountains there, so that the exposure was a little more consistent and you had a little bit more detail. There's detail in these clouds up here. I can see it, but it's just still so bright that it's pulling my eye up there. So this is the novice category, and maybe this is just something to take a look at to see if you can work on your further images so that you're not so imbalanced between the light of the image in one area versus the other. Next. Yeah, really, really powerful. Kind of a in your face, here comes the engine. Again, similar to the last one, this is really a nice shot of this engine, and I've great impact. It almost feels like it's going to run over me. So that part of it is good. The image, I think, probably could use a little noise reduction or maybe a little bit of topaz type sharpening. It's a little bit soft in some areas, and again, like some of the other images, I'm hate to just keep harping on the same thing, but this bright sky up here is kind of pulls the eye away from the primary subject being the train. And you kind of have it boxed in between the bright area down here in these shrubs and the bright area up here. I can see that there is some detail in the sky, so learn to kind of bring that down. And again, you could have used a little bit of a graduated filter in Lightroom just to pull this up and darken these shrubs down in the foreground, so they weren't quite so attracted to so the eye wasn't quite so attracted and pulled out of the image. But nice composition and good attempt. So next image. I really, really enjoyed this image for a number of reasons. The diagonals are really strong and dynamic and convey movement and what have you. And you've got a really, really nice, beautiful diagonal lines here that tend to anchor and help frame the subject of this trolley. Exposure is nice. And the timing that the maker took to take this image, I think, postured it very well. We have a sense of where this is. I love all this area in here, which is part of the story that connects these two. I suspect that this would be, if you were entering Southern California Council of Camera Clubs, probably a very good travel image. It's showing to me a unique feature, unique land, and I really enjoy the composition. I kind of really nitpick, but this little kind of occlusion up here, I don't know what I'd do with it. Maybe the same thing the maker did here, because but maybe lifting it up just a little bit, so when you have a little tiny thing, and this is really a nitpick, a little tiny thing like that that's tangent with the side of the image, you want to be either in or out, and that is nitpicking to the ultimate. But those of us that compete at the higher level, I always say, when you start putting your image together for composition, one of the things I do is I look around all of the edges of my image for anything that could be a distraction or that's not fully in or fully out. Might just clean up some of the stuff down here, and that's really a nitpick. So I'm picking on it just for the sake of picking on it because I really, really enjoy the image and I think it's a good job by the maker. Next. Um, I gotta give kudos to the maker for doing something that isn't just a plain old steam engine train. I talked before I started about looking for details and looking for interesting things and zooming in, getting in tight. And so somebody was thinking about that when they took this image. It is probably an old sleeper car. It looks like the bed on the left-hand side. Um, and I could be critical of the image. It is kind of tilted and out of whack, and the exposure is and the light is very flat and da 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 da. But I go back to really having to recognize the maker for trying to do something unusual and unique. And that really made me happy when I came to it because, again, it's thinking outside of the box, not doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. So, congratulations on that part of it. And I think you'll probably grow in terms of composition and some of the technical stuff, but good job for today. Next.
Okay, that was all of them. I'll put over one view.
Okay.
You can score them.
You want me to do the first, second, and thirds now, or?
Yeah,
Okay. I had first place in the novice. I had approaching train Carson City.
okay, that's
That's number one.
this
And
one, and that's Suzanne Leroy.
congratulations, Suzanne. And congratulations on thinking outside the box. Number two I had is Danube adjacent.
I'm looking.
There, that's the one.
Okay, so Danube adjacent. That's Stefan Johnson, second place.
And then I had the third place as 5914. The time, I believe it was 5914, the time.
Unless it's that one that's hidden. Nope. Oh, yeah. Here it is. Third place.
Yep, third place.
The time T, Jennifer Summerpet.
Gee, there you go. And the fourth or honorable mention I have as Marcy Avenue.
Oh, Marcy Avenue. Okay,
So
and that is Stefan Johnson, HM.
good job, everyone.
Was there another HM, Hutch?
That's it.
Oh, just one HM?
Just the one HM, yep.
Okay, so that's it. So next we move on to amateur, and there's 3 in this class, this group. And it'll be a quick run through. And there's the
Okay.
first.
I think I've been in that exact spot. And I think there was water in that spot when I was there. And we took a wrong road and we had to pull my car out of a rut that I never thought we were going to escape from. So I know the area. And it's a really, really interesting image. I mean, the sky is just absolutely incredible. And I almost wonder whether the image is more about the sky than it is about the train, but nonetheless, obviously the train is in there. It fits the assignment. Um, I'm not sure what I would do to make this much better than what it is. Maybe, well, I'm not sure. I'm a little iffy on, and this is kind of a nitpick. Um, I'm a little iffy on this kind of stuff down here. Um, and I'm not so sure. I might have just cropped a little bit above it. I don't need so much of the pond. Um, but that leaves, your primary subject is the train, and you're really dropping that down to the bottom of the image and just leaving a lot of sky space up here, competing against it. And already the eye is going to the clouds first. It's the brightest spot in the image. And so I'm not so sure that I would want to pull that train even down lower. Uh, but obviously meets the assignment as it is. And again, glorious sky. Next image. Yeah, nice. Um, I I like the pot the composition, the train kind of coming at you. And notice in this image, I might have left a squeak more, but in some of the images, the train is moving and very close to the edge, and it almost looks like it's going to crash into the side of the image. So at least there is some space left here for the train to move into, and I appreciate that. And I kind of like the fact that it starts way back here. And this is kind of implied curved line. You know that that train is going around that corner, which is kind of cool. The exposure is pretty good. The sky is really dramatic. Um, and overall nice color. So I enjoyed the image. That's a little bit bright back there. I might have brought that down to balance the image a little bit better, but kind of a nitpick because it's pretty good image to begin with. So well seen. Next image. Um, the same thing with this image. Nicely done with the area over here for the train to move into. Um, I I must confess that I played with a couple of these images just to see whether the angle was actually correct. And I think in this image it is. There's kind of a tattletale up here that's vertical. So the train is moving down the hill here, but there's kind of some perspective thing going on that I feel is kind of funny in this that I'm not quite sure I can put my finger on. Not a big deal, maybe a little bit of a nitpick. I was a little confused also by the blurry stuff here, but then suddenly it occurred to me that that is the heat coming out of the engine. So that's actually kind of cool. I think that part of what's going on here is what Dan Holmes would refer to as the need for a little digital gardening. And there's just a lot of stuff that just as you roam around the train, there's a lot of stuff that's just little distractions that's really, really easy to clone or take out. There's this little white thing down here, this little rock down here, kind of the messy bush right here. This stuff, the propellers up here. Those are so easy to take out. And then you don't have those kind of just distractions that are hanging around, taking the eye out. Stuff right here. That's pretty easy to do. That's about a 5 minutes of cloning. So think about doing that. I think the other thing that might have helped this a little bit would be to do a little bit of vignette around the train so that you darken the area around it, just a little, just not a whole bunch. But you've got, you got a lot of light going on up here. And so that's competing with the train itself. Some of you might feel that's a little nitpick, but try taking this train, putting a radial around it, inverting the radial, and just creating a little bit of a vignette around it. Not so much that it's obvious, but just enough that the eye stays towards the center and get rid of the little stuff around it. But overall, nice image. Congratulations. Next image.
Okay, that's it.
Oh, that's yeah. Okay. I've got that down as number one is 8805 Caliente, I believe it is.
Okay,
Number one.
and that belongs
Yep.
to,
Number two, the train to the right.
that belongs to Fred Long.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Congratulations, Fred. Number two is 8854 Cameron, I believe it is.
And that belongs to Fred Long.
Congratulations again, Fred. And then number three is the Trona image.
Okay, Fred Long.
That's called Home Run. Congratulations. All three.
Okay.
Very nice.
Next is advanced. Quick run through. Oh, there's only six, that's why. Okay, sorry. Here's the first one.
Okay, I've got to give kudos to the maker for doing something a little bit different than most of the rest of them. The men at work working on the engine is a little out of the box compared to, again, some of the others, and I really appreciate that. I don't know if all of you know what an eye line is. An eye line is a leading line that is basically invisible. It's an implied line. And you got a very strong implied line going here. And I don't know what the heck he's looking at. He's looking at that. But that's the first thing my eye tends to do is that's a pretty strong eye line. You got another eye line leading down here to that guy's feet. So I'm a little confused as to what you are trying to get me to look at. If maybe there was a moment where whatever that guy has in his hand, maybe he would be working on the engine or doing something that would put that in context. But as it stands, it's kind of a confusing image. And I look at it, and aside from that, here's what I was talking about. Would have been fun. It's just, here's an image within the image. It's getting some of the steam and the mechanical stuff and having fun with it. And you've got a really good job of preserving the highlights and getting into the shadows of all the detail here. I love the steamy stuff down here. There's an image in there that really could have been very, very strong. So think about taking a look around and seeing what you can see. So often there are images within an image. Again, I don't want to be too critical because I'm really pleased that the maker saw fit to do something other than just a train engine or a car. So headed in the right direction. I just would wait for a moment or maybe go up to them and say, hey, can you look like you're doing something on the train? And guys like that a lot of times will not punch you in the face. They'll smile and pose for you. And I'm not talking about just posing with a big smile on their face. I'm talking about posing and saying, can you do something that looks like you're doing something to the train? So anyway, enough of that. Next image. Yeah, it this is just so nice and sharp and what have you that first I thought it was one of those toy trains out at the Palm Desert train thing. This is just nice detail in the image. And beautiful S curve going in. Really strong, nice S curve taking you through the image and enough space here for the train to travel into. So all really good aspects of this. Um, and I'm seeing what I feel is some work by somebody that kind of knows what they're doing. The only thing I might recommend, if it were my image, is I would try to tone down this bright area here. It's really competing with the front of the engine. The brightest area of the image is where your eye will go almost every time, and kind of losing a little bit of detail in here. So that can be done using a radial or a brush or all kinds of different ways of bringing those tones down. And then I think you'll keep the eye focused right down here where you want it to be. The other choice, of course, would have been just to crop it off here, but then you kind of lose some of these sweeping lines that I like so much. So kind of bring these highlights down a little bit selectively, and I think you might have a little bit better image, or at least I would. So next image. Yeah, lots of impact and interesting use technically of a lens. This image is what we refer to as having compression. Everything is probably was a very long lens, I suspect, that was used to take this image, and it's compressed. And I don't know whether or not the maker darkened this background or whether it was naturally that way. But notice how your eye really focuses in on the meat of the image. So if it was done in post intentionally, kudos to the maker for doing that. That's kind of showing what the opposite of what I referred to in some of the other images is the bright sky that dries the image out. This really frames this, and I really love the heat coming off the top of the image that's kind of distorting this up here. It's very obvious that it's the heat. Only really, I think, little nitpick perhaps would be that maybe losing some detail down here in the shadows. But again, I think that's kind of a nitpick because overall, I think that the image is strong in terms of composition, technical, and met the theme very well. So next image. Yeah, I sometimes as a judge you preview and then you come back and you see something different than you saw originally. And that's happening to me in this image. Because when I first saw it, I thought, yeah, I'd really like those people looking at me or something. But that really works. He's looking, here's that eye line, really taking you traveling down along with the engine in terms of the direction it's going. So that's working pretty well. And this guy, he's kind of looking down. So you got a lot of leading lines that are taking you, giving you some movement or impression of movement in the image. And I like that a lot. Really nice exposure on this image. Nice color, a lot of detail. Here's the stuff I like to shoot. And again, I don't want to brag on this too much, but just getting into the meat of these engines, stuff like this is there's a whole bunch of images within the image in this, and I would encourage you to start thinking about that. But overall, I'm liking this image a lot better. I might have the sky is a little bit blue for me, but that's kind of a nitpick. Nicely done. Next image. What was the name of that?
The title,
Yeah.
Engine 2 on the Move.
Okay. Another engine 2. And similarly, there's things about this image that I almost like better than the other image, and then there's some distractions that are kind of pulling me back to the predecessor. I just love the steam coming out of the engine here. It's just beautiful and really adds to the story. Those of you that have, I think most of us have seen this old steam engines and the steam, and it's really kind of fun and helps make the image. I kind of wish that this guy was. I think there was an opportunity here. This guy looking out the window, but I really don't see him. So I'm not so sure that fussing with the highlights and shadows in there might have pulled that out. And then here's an example of traveling around an image, the edges, to see what might be cleaned up, because I think this gal doesn't need to be in there. And that's an easy removal. And then again, I think the sky is a little bit more blue for me. Sometimes we use the dehaze filter, and the dehaze filter, if that is the case here, really could be a good tool, but it tends to turn things blue. And you can offset that a little bit with taking the white balance a little bit warmer. So I'm seeing a lot of blue, and getting the feeling that may have been what's happening here. And I could be wrong, but just a guess, because some of these tones just seem a little bit off to me. But nice composition, well thought out image, and certainly meets the theme. Good job with the headlight here and keeping that detail in there too, by the way. So next image. Yeah. Nice curved leading line taking you right to the subject. Rule of odds, you've got the 3 lights right there, which attract the eye, and of course the brightest spots will bring you to the subject. So there's a lot of powerful things that are bringing us right to that engine, which is where I suspect the maker wanted us to go, given the theme. So that's really well done. A little bit dark in here. I don't know if there was an opportunity maybe to pull the shadows out a little bit. Just a tiny bit of detail, because I'm losing detail in here. But given the fact that it's coming out of that tunnel, maybe that's a little bit of a nitpick, because here is where the maker wanted me to see, and that's exactly where I went. A little bit pumped on the saturation, perhaps, in the greens. One of the things I encourage people to learn that'll make a big difference in their image is using the HSL sliders, hue, saturation, and luminosity sliders. A lot of folks are not familiar with them or not using them. And it's a way to take an image like this where you don't really want to bring, you want to saturate the image for the sake of the train and what have you. And so you do it globally. And then what happens is you end up with one color that just kind of goes out of whack on you. And by using the luminosity and saturation sliders, you can pull the greens back down without affecting the other colors. And it can be very, very effective in your images in terms of selectively working with colors. So think about that, and I suspect that's a tool that might have served this maker well. I also might have just toned down the foreground here just a little bit bright, but that's a nitpick. So nicely composed, which is very, very important, and met the topic and the theme very well. So congratulations to the maker. Next.
And that's it.
That's it. Okay, dokie. Let's see. I've got first place as triple engine.
Okay, and triple engine is Roger Day, first place.
And I'm gonna go second place with the man in control.
Okay. The man in control is also Roger Day, second place.
And then I'm going to go third place with engine number 2.
This one here, third place.
Yeah.
Okay, engine number 2 on the move. Third place is William Peak.
And then I'm going to go, let's see, I'm going for third place now, correct?
That was third
I'm
place.
I screwed myself up because I'm switching around what I'd originally done a little bit.
The engine on the move was at a third place.
Oh, no, okay, we got the 3. Then let's give an HM to Out of the Dark.
Okay, out of the dark is HM.
That's it.
And the dark tunnel, and that's Roger Day. Roger Day.
Good job, all.
Does that look like it?
That's it.
Okay, then the last group is master.
Bring out the big guns, huh?
18 of these, yeah. Here's a quick run through. Okay. There's the first one.
Here I've been talking about the bright skies all night long and how it takes your eye out of it. And I still feel that, you can see the detail up here in the skies. I still feel like maybe bringing down that brightness might have been good. The other side of the coin is this image really had so much impact for me when I first looked at it. The tonality of the train itself is really beautiful. And there's so much detail. It's so sharp that I absolutely love it. It fits the theme so well. I might have liked a little bit more space in front of it, and you're a little bit tangent down here, and I would have liked maybe a little bit of space there. One of the judges that I learned so much from talks a lot about estuaries for the eye, so that what you want to do is you always want to leave space between the edge of the image and your subject matter. That way your eye can travel around the image without stopping or getting blocked, which is really kind of what's happening right here. So think about leaving a little bit of space on that side, but obviously the maker did a hell of a job of getting this sharp and getting the tonality so beautiful in the train and it just pops right out of that bright sky. So I'm a little hesitant to be too critical of that, but I could see some clouds there and what have you that might have made this interesting. The thing that drove me a little bit crazy, frankly, was this guy right here. I'm not quite so sure what a guy cutting the grass has got to add to the image. In fact, um, I just kept getting pulled over to him, wondering what the heck he's doing in there. Um, should not have been really all that difficult to get out of there. And it's kind of interesting because this guy really is kind of interesting, even though he's looking away. He's interesting, but I think in terms of the people, you just get stuck on this guy over here. And I get a little stuck on this thing here. So I don't think he would be that hard to take out of there, maybe because you have some detail in here, and maybe that's why the maker decided to leave him, would have been a challenge getting him out and still having the detail in there. But nonetheless, I probably would have given that a try. And then once he's out, this little pole and that little pole would have easily been removed and taken away those distractions. But overall, really, really beautiful, impactful image. So congratulations again to the maker. Next image. Powerful. The impact to me was instant in terms of the power of this train. You really, really feel it. I really like the strong diagonal is the diagonals, horizontal lines represent calm and stillness. Vertical lines are powerful and take you up to the heavens, and diagonals show strength and power, and certainly exhibit it in this engine. So I think it was a well thought out angle. That being said, this is so tight. Remember, I was talking about there's actually more space at the rear of the train than there is at the front of the train. So, well, I really like the angle and I really like the composition. If it were my image, I would have tried to create a little bit more space there. Maybe the maker either didn't have the space, or maybe this stuff here just became that much messier and too much of a detractant to the eye. I don't know. This up here could have easily been taken out, and I think might have helped the image too. In fact, if this was gone, I'm not so sure that this would be quite so prominent for some reason, because I think that negative space may have helped it a little bit. But nice exposure, sharp image, and nice composition. Next image. I think we've gone back to Trona, and I think I have again stood in that spot. We are in the age of dropping in skies and doing all kinds of clever stuff, compositing and what have you with images. And I could be wrong on this image. I don't know, but one of the things that judges are starting to look more and more at is, because of the dropped-in skies and what have you, is the direction and the quality of the light. And it should be consistent. In this case, I've got somewhat strong evidence that the light is hitting the back of this car right here. It is very, very bright. And I look at this shadow here, and you got all this brightness up here. So the sky, the sun is hitting from this direction here. But the sun in the sky is back here, which doesn't make sense. So, you got to really, really think about, especially if you're going to put it into competition, you've got to start thinking about direction and quality of light. So I talked a little bit about the direction of the light in this one, and then you look at the quality of the light, and you are a late afternoon sunset. You are getting a bounce off the clouds with a nice soft light, and then at the same time, you got all this really harsh bright light in the foreground here. So that's kind of incongruous. I mean, you look at the overhead, presumably what would be the overhead sky here would create a totally different quality of light than what is showing in the image. And you've completely lost detail down on the ground here from the bright light. And you're really losing detail at the back of the train here. So, a lot of photography is about light. And now we have some new tools that let us modify and play with light that much more. And so I'm just urging you all to be a little bit more careful and think about when you are playing with it like this, that it is consistent with what you would see naturally. All this mean stuff that I've been saying about this image, there is some good stuff. The composition is really nice, and I do want to recognize that. I mean, this sweeping, beautiful curve going right into the sun there, presumably the sun, is really beautiful. It's really nice. It's really laid out very well. I'm not sure, what I think the maker has done by leaving all of this in is what he wanted to do was leave all of that in. I'm not so sure that you really need all of this beautiful sky, presuming that it was natural and real. I think I would have been tempted, if I'm a little bit low on my top line there, to not leave so much of this stuff over here. We know that sunset goes beyond just this space here. The real subject of the picture is this train. And so here I am. What I've really done in this image is I've really split it. You got two images. One, you got the train, and two, you got all this grungy stuff over here. I think this is a good learning image, and there's really good stuff about it, but this is the kind of thing you want to kind of start thinking about, is this concept of there's really two images, and where do you want the maker to be? What's the subject, and what doesn't not to need to be in the image to tell the story and to do the job. So again, kudos to the maker for really a fun, nice composition. And thank you for giving us, I think, a little bit of learning lesson. Next image. Boy, fun. Really fun. The train plowing through the snowstorm. And I have no idea whether this is snow that's been composited in or whether it was real. It almost looks like somebody pulled off to the side of the road, got out of their car and snatched the image. And congratulations if that's the case. In fact, congratulations if it were the snow was dropped in, because pretty good job of doing that. And I love the little streaks of snow here. Um, the only thing I might have done, and because I think the image is really, really good unto itself. Tonality is good, the details are good, especially with all the snow falling. Is I'm looking at this image and I'm thinking, man, do I need all of that big negative space up there? Or would this make kind of a cool panorama? And if it were my image, I think I would consider turning this into the panorama. I'm not so sure that all this needs to be. It's just a, big eye pull up here. A lot of negative space that's really not contributing anything new or different to the image. It's just kind of hanging out because we know it's snowing down here, right? We don't need to see all that falling snow up there. But nicely composed, and I love the concept. Good job. Next image. Excuse me while I take a little drink. Um, I really enjoyed this image. I have ridden one of those trains. They're fun. They're beautiful. Styling is incredible. They're very fast, and I kind of like, you've got just enough here in apparent Japanese and in the people to put the train in context of the place that it is. I love the color in it. At first I thought maybe a little oversaturated, but the more I look at it, it's really not. Um, I just enjoy it. It's a sense of place. Notice what I was talking about. There's not much, but just enough there that there's no tangency there. There's enough that my eye can creep around and sweep down this beautiful diagonal track up and down, sweep around, come up the top, and then visit all these nice people over here. So well conceived, nicely exposed, sharp as a tack. Really, really nice image. I'm going to hit this with a real nitpick, but it's one that I find in a lot of images, and that is that the earth is slightly leaning to the left. And this is one that I like so much that I took the liberty of putting into Camera Raw and just pushing a button, and indeed it did straighten this out and level it out. But you're a little bit of an angle there. That's overall, I think, pretty nitpicky because I think it's otherwise beautiful color, beautiful composition, and a nice story. So next image. This is impactful. When it first came up, I don't know about those of you in the audience. This is why I love judging live versus, and I apologize for not coming out personally. It was my intent because I love being out there with you guys. The initial impact was pretty strong, and then I was a little bit puzzled. And my puzzlement kind of comes with the direction and the quality of the light. So I'm going to kind of kudos to the maker for darkening around the train because it makes it pop out. And I really like that. It works in terms of isolating the train and focusing your eye where it ought to be. But it becomes confusing because, at least for me, the light begins and ends right here. And light doesn't really work that way. Light falls off. So it's almost like there's two images. In terms of darkening this back here, I agree that, darkening the background, and there's still detail. Congratulations for that. But I think the light needed to fall off more naturally, or at least if it was my image, that's what I would be attempting to do, is to get this light fall off more natural. You got fairly bright here. Everything's dark back there, but the tracks, the apparent tracks, I think that's what they're supposed to be, are bright. And the image is kind of split. The other thing that I might have done, if this is mine, this is almost right down the middle of the image. So you almost have two images, right? Especially given the dramatic difference in light here versus here. And I don't know, I was trying to figure out how to pull this up so you were dealing more with thirds. I might have just cropped a little bit more off the top just to balance it a little bit more. That may be more personal preference, but I'd really hate that the line being smack dab in the middle. The image actually, in the sense of one of the good things compositionally, is it really does have a lot of beautiful symmetry. I mean, these tracks are just going down, and it's just great symmetry going on with this image. So lots of things to like, and there's some things that are kind of, I would say, a puzzlement. So next image. This image definitely had strong impact on me. The impact was the crossing. I mean, I just went, pow. Not only, reds and yellows are really, really powerful colors. Blues and greens are calming and tend to become secondary to the more primary, brighter colors. So, boy, you are really focused in on that. And maybe that was the maker's intent. I started thinking about it. I thought, well, this is not just about train engines. It's about all things related to trains. And maybe that's what the maker wanted me to focus on. Maybe that was their purpose. It's placed nicely in the third. So compositionally, that's where it belongs. It's, kind of stands out from the background. So I don't know. And would not know without having a conversation with the maker. Again, maybe they wanted me. What was the title to this? Could you give me
Narrow gauge engine.
say again?
Helene narrow gauge engine.
Okay, so the title implies that it's about the engine. So, what do I say? And again, I think could bring some detail out in these skies. We seem to have a lot of bright skies tonight, but overall, I mean, it's a fun image. The engine and train are definitely interesting. This guy here is interesting. So there's good stuff. This little sign here tells me a story about where it is, and I understand a little bit about what's going on. But that railroad crossing just kind of puzzled me. So next image. Really strong colors, and which perhaps are appropriate for the strength of that engine presumably pulling 100 cars behind it. And it's a very industrial image with the subject matter that's behind it, which I think works kind of well with it. Um, it's it it's a little bit on this. I'm trying to put my finger on it. I think I put my finger on it. The sky to me is competing with the train. I mean, that's really, really bright yellows and oranges and what have you, which is competing with the train, which is really not quite as bright as the sky. So is that really what you would want to do? Would you want to make the story about the sky, or is it about the train, which is what this is supposed to be about? And so I keep getting pulled up in here because this is the brightest area of the image. I love the concept. I love the industrial background. I love the train itself. All that stuff is really cool. The basic concept is really cool. The other thing I got kind of caught up in is this almost vignette of out of focus. And I'm not so sure what that's all about, or I presume that was by intent or design. Maybe that's yeah, maybe that was the intention of the maker, was to convey motion in some ways, but in a sense, I've got motion going this way, and I got motion going, well, it is going the same direction. So again, maybe that was by design. The world is tilting a little bit. There's a little perspective issue here. You can see this, the verticals are slightly at an angle, so something's going on with that. Maybe that again was the intent of the maker. I'm not so sure, but it I think for me at least, it distracts a little bit from the good stuff that really is in there. Again, all the industrial stuff that matches well with the train. The train is really cool. So some really good things I enjoy about it, and maybe some things that personally, if I were my image, I might do a little bit differently. Next image.
And Hutch, you might want to keep a little bit shorter. We're starting to get into time.
I'm sorry, coming across muffled. You want me
Speed it
to
up.
speed it up?
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Okay. Beautiful scene. Train coming around the border, the corner here, is really nice. The lighting is a little bit flat on it, but overall nice composition. Certainly a beautiful setting. Next. I got such a kick out of this. I suspect this is about that maybe the big train set out there in Palm Desert for maybe by one of us that went out to the Roundup chapter event. But I think it's a lot of fun. Great color, a lot of fun color, and nice composition. Well done. Next image. Love this image. This again, this is kind of what I was talking about, of taking selectively part of the engine. You don't need the whole thing. Tonality, I think, is beautiful. Details beautiful. Everything is sharp in this image. I love the monochromatic treatment of it. Well done. Next image. Yeah, clever. I don't know how else to say it. And certainly meets the theme. Lots of 812s. I think the impact of it may hit different people differently. If it were my image, I would try to keep a little bit more space down here and maybe a little bit less space up in the sky. Next image. Likewise, and again, look at light. I mean, you've done a nice job of pulling out the details here, but gosh, I'm competing. This bright white thing over here is really competing with the engine in here, and this area down here is really bright. And then I'm not so sure that I need all this stuff up here on the top. It could very easily have, just cropped into a panorama, left off that part there, and now you got a nice symmetry going on with the train coming from two directions. Next. Cool. I really feel the night. I really feel the storm. Presuming this was probably done in post, but otherwise somebody got very, very wet. Good job on the tonality. Good job on the story. Really enjoy the image. Next. This one coming out of the tunnel. There's, remember the previous one, it was just a total black hole. And I'm really more comfortable and kind of like this, there being more detail and kind of seeing where the train is coming. So maybe that was due to the point of view and that allowed that to happen. That being said, and we are, I think, are in the advanced category, they're just a barrel load of distractions in this. And, the fence here running over the top of the train, all this, whatever paraphernalia down here. This image needs a lot of digital gardening, and there's just really no reason to have all of this up here. So, well thought out in the sense of the train coming out of the tunnel and keeping some detail in there so that we know it's a tunnel and not a black hole, but try, shoot through the fence or something, get down where the other person did and where there's not so much stuff in the way. Next. Love it. Drama. Really beautiful. Even some of the junk here on the side, I don't know what it is, but it's interesting. Love the red and green signal light there. The direction of light, you can just feel sweeping over on it. The only thing that, and I really looked at this image for a long time, is this area here, and this is really a nitpick. This bright area here, I played a little bit with this image, just brightening up so that there was more like a little bit of a bright vignette around it, which really made the train stand out. And that total nitpick. In fact, and after doing it, I thought, well, that's not natural because the direction of light is coming this way. Again, it goes back to that tonality and direction of light. It's really, really good on it. So I almost retract what I said, but I'm not so sure there's really anything I would change about this. I think it's really a great image. Next. This is fun. And this is kind of one of those psychological tests, right? I say, gee, I should have more space out in front of the train and a little less in the back of the train, right? And then I thought about it a little bit, and I don't know which direction it's going. It may be going down the hill, in which case there was plenty of space left. So, it's kind of a puzzle. I think we all know this spot and this train, and it's fun. I love the face in here. I wish I was seeing a little bit more of his, but that's kind of a nitpick. And yeah, I'm going to assume that it is descending rather than ascending. Again, just a little bit of a nitpick is that you got a little bit of the world leaning to the left. And that's just really a minor nitpick in the sense of the story. the color, and the fun of the image. So good job. Next. I wanted to love this image so much, but the light is just so flat on it. Great concept. Nice light in the sense of direction. I mean, I see it there. It just needs to be punched up a little bit. I really like the angle, the composition. I really like. I kind of like the dropped in texture or background, I believe, that removes any kind of distractions that I suspect were surrounding the train. So that's what we're really looking at. This again was one that I kind of took some liberties on and just popped just a little bit, and it really brought out the details. So this may be more a matter of preference, and I prefer a little bit more pop and contrast in my monochromatic images, and the maker may like a little bit less. But I think at least there might be a compromise between one and the other, where bringing out a little bit detail might be helpful, and I think it'd make the image look a little bit sharper also. So good job overall. Next.
Okay, that's it.
Hey, wow.
Pretty big group.
Hey. We've got number one. I want to make sure that I'm going to go with number one is Fast Track.
Okay. And that one is Fast Track Thomas Van Langenhoven.
Of course. Congrats, Tom. Number two is going to be Early Train.
Okay, Early Train. Second place, Tom Jordan.
Names I'm familiar with. Number three is going to be Steam Engine. Down to the second one on the second row.
Oh.
Second one, second row. Oh, there's two steam engines. Yeah.
Oh, there are, yeah. Okay, so this steam engine,
Yeah.
third place.
And
It's
then
called Steam Engine from Yesteryear, Scott Shackelford.
and then honorable mention to the other steam engine, the first one up there that you went to.
Okay, this steam engine is steam engine number 90, close up, Scott Shackelford, HM.
I've actually got two more honorable mentions. One is Train in the Rain.
By the way, that last one was an HM, right?
Yeah, that last one was an honorable mention. So I got three honorable mentions.
Oh, gotcha. So Train in the Rain is Tom Jordan, HM.
And then Angel's Flight.
And then Angel's Flight, HM is Kathy Newman.
Good job, everybody. Lots of fun.
Yeah.
Okay,
Does anyone have questions for Hutch?
questions for Hutch?
Hmm?
We're asking for questions.
I don't see. Because this was a pictorial category, a lot more editing is allowed, so we kind of expected you to take out this.
I'm
That's just, how it goes. But thank you so much, Hutch, for being here. We really appreciate
Sure.
all of your comments, and helps us to see the images from a different standpoint, how to implement.
And if you have a question or want to throw a tomato and don't want to do it in public here, feel free to email me. I think you've got my email or you got my web address, and I'm easy to reach, and I'm happy to respond to anybody comments one way or the other.